patience. So we're going to be having our last session of the day, which is Absa. So I certainly hope that you've enjoyed all the presentations that we have done here today. Sorry, I was just on mute there. So thank you so much for your patience, and we've come to the end of our session. So our last session will be done by Absa, and the presenter will be Mikhail Pillay, who is the Senior Manager for Supplier Diversity. So Mikhail, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have the graveyard shift. I hope that you guys still are engaged. Thank you so much for your participation. And of course, thank you to Smart Procurement. What I'm going to do is put off my video now that you've seen my face and go straight into the presentation. The big question, how to do business with Absa. It's not my favorite topic. As I go through the detail, you will realize why as well. I'm trying to go to the next slide. There we go. So as you know, ultimately the objectives of a buyer, the 5 rights, our right to the right quality, the right quantity, at the right place, at the right time, and at the right price. And all of this is underpinned within the Absa group procurement policy. And I've just outlined what the primary objectives of the group procurement policy is. And ultimately it encompasses everything that I've just mentioned now, but with a particular focus towards transformation initiatives, which is in line with our current strategy. Like it was mentioned, I am actually the senior manager within supplier diversity. So when I look at procurement, I look at it through the lens of transformation and particularly around inclusion of SMMEs, which all of you are obviously within that category. And our processes are broken up into critical overall processes as strategic, tactical, and then the self-service procurement. So the question that all of you are asking is, how do you enter the Absa supply chain? And I want to take you through the landscape of what our group procurement service offering currently looks like. It starts off at the ecosystem management, goes through to the category management process, the sourcing management process, further onto the contract management, which is once the RFX process has been concluded, and then the supplier management, which is actually managing the ongoing relationship together with the exit strategy that's determined. And then of course, supplier risk and governance, which is obviously very big in an organization like Absa where we are regulated. So that's made up of advisory, risk management, and assurance, a big component of post-contract management. And then supplier diversity, which I said to you, I have a particular interest in, and that's broken up according to the 3 elements which currently exist for us on our BEE scorecard in the financial sector code, which is supply development, enterprise development, and preferential procurement. And this is where we actually, this is the area that we target when we are bringing in SMMEs. So we have particular requirements around the caliber of SMME that we bring in, together with what the minimum requirements are, which I'm going to take you through on the next slide. And then onto our data and information management, as well as the procure to pay process. So this is the full life cycle of what the procurement service offering looks like within the Absa group. As you are all aware, Absa primarily is the biggest operation sits within South Africa. However, we have a footprint through Africa, and this is the methodology that we use throughout our footprint. So one of our strategic objectives from an ExCo perspective is that we are a responsible citizen in every one of the geographies that we currently have presence in. just to give you a little bit of our numbers, Absa 2019 was at 18.9 billion rand. Of that, a whopping 5.6 billion was spent with Black woman-owned suppliers. And the reason that I want to bring that in is as part of our Women's Month initiatives, we are wanting to grow that spend with women-owned suppliers. Currently, our year-to-date numbers are sitting at 4.3 billion rand spent with 265 women-owned suppliers, Black women-owned suppliers. Globally, the number is of corporate spend, less than 1% of global procurement spend resides within the hands of women-owned businesses. And for Absa to have already achieved 30%, aiming towards a higher end, shows that we are not just putting this and embedding it into our policies and processes, but we are delivering on it. So we are definitely walking the talk. In terms of our approaches around supply diversity, we use 3 different approaches. We call them transform, grow and develop, and find and develop. And ultimately what that means is for us to transform, we are looking at that are currently within our supply base that are non-compliant, high-performing suppliers, and there's multiple ways in which we go about assisting them with transforming. And one of that is obviously market access. So for small businesses, we understand that 2 of the biggest barriers to successful, sustainable businesses is the access to finance, number 1, and access to market, number 2. So our program is developed in a way that we allow both of that. And through our transform category, we assist suppliers within our ecosystem to have access to our bigger suppliers in order for them to get market access that then results in exponential growth, not being limited to the Absa supply chain only. Then the second one I mentioned was grow and develop. So these are the compliant guys. So suppliers who are already meeting our minimum requirements within the bank, and we want to give them extended contracts. We want to grow their value, additional contracts, extending value of current contracts. So we want to spend more with them. And then the last approach is the find and develop. And this is where we go out searching for new suppliers, new compliant suppliers. So onto the next slide. I've just broken up what are the broad products and services are that Absa is searching for on a daily basis. From a banking operations perspective, those are the services that reside within the retail banking space. Logistics, document management, consumer data, cash in transit is big and untransformed, card services, which is around plastic, anything to do with credit, debit cards, and all the services and peripherals around that, including technology. In the ATM services, which is everything from security features to man guarding, etc. Then collections, which is collections on bad debt, and call centers, which I don't need to really explain. Then engineering services. So this is what's broadly under the technology space, which is broken up into various different areas. So the software, hardware, security, and this is IT security, the tech services, telco, and then our virtual channels and services. And of course, in the engineering services space, there's difficulty that we find around transforming the sector because it's predominantly previously white, predominantly male as well. So, but that hasn't deterred us in terms of transformation. That has just given us more impetus to ensure that we actually do transform this through active participation on platforms such as this to ensure that we have access to small suppliers out there. In the corporate services area, in corporate services, the way we've bundled that together, it's part of corporate services. Sorry, getting tongue twisted. Our corporate real estate sits within that area, together with marketing and corporate relations, as well as human resources, which includes everything around employee wellness as well. And then professional services, which is market data, connectivity, trader voice platforms, advisory, in audit, property valuation, as well as litigation, management consultancies, and corporate insurance. So a mouthful around the products and services that we are searching for. However, there are a lot of other services that sit beneath this that we would ultimately categorize them under managed services, which would be things like facilities, etc. But that is still not out of scope, because we understand that in those areas is where there are opportunities for small businesses to play. And that is why we are not opposed to partnering with our tier 1 suppliers for tier 2 suppliers to ensure that they have access to market. So what do we offer from a supply diversity perspective? And this is what I was mentioning around the growth, etc. So we offer access to finance, and that's different forms in terms of lending and grant. And when I say lending, that's also quite broad. That's actually access to all of Absa's financial services at a preferential rate. Then access to markets, like I mentioned, not only do we want our suppliers to have direct access to the Absa market, but we also want our suppliers to be able to have access to everyone within our supply chain, ensuring that, once again, sustainable development, growth, and a business that lives longer than 5 years. And then business development support. So this is the support that we would give post-contract in terms of growth. And these are a lot of interventions that happen at granular level to ensure that we start unpacking the growth elements within a business and assist entrepreneurs to develop their business into a future state with a future plan, etc. What is Absa's current requirements in terms of transformation requirements? We're currently looking for suppliers that are BBBE compliant, and over and above that, we're looking for at least a Black ownership level of 51% and higher. We're looking for Black woman ownership of at least 30% or higher. And we are looking for suppliers that are graded within the level 1 to level 3 space. So we primarily are looking for suppliers level 3 and below. We issue our RFXs electronically, currently using a system called Coupa. And Absa, like I mentioned, we conduct closed RFXs. So it's very important for you to become visible to the members of our sourcing team well before an RFX actually commences. So sourcing process commences, we need to know about you before then. So we don't advertise in public media, etc. How do you get noticed by Absa? How do you get access to the sourcing individuals within Absa? So we have quite a few partnerships, and I think our biggest partnerships right now is with the Lionesses of Africa, and that is woman-owned businesses that are accredited through a community called Lionesses of Africa. And then our affiliation to Smart Procurement, and I'm assuming that most of you know how that works. So what we want to do is we want to be able to extract benefit from our partnership with these organizations in order for us to have access to their databases, in order for us to be able to hunt out all your suppliers. Then there's obviously direct soliciting with Absa Sourcing, which is myself and about 70 odd more individuals within Absa South Africa. And then there's referrals. Referrals come from different organizations. It comes from other suppliers within our chain. It comes from individuals within the organization. So referrals come, yes, in all different shapes and colors from everywhere. We currently do have an extranet at the moment, and I know this says that we should have gone live at the middle of October. That hasn't happened yet, but I will share my details on the chat block before I stop this presentation, so that you'll have access to me and I'll be able to direct you into the right avenue in terms of in accordance with what your offering is. the different types of business support programs that we offer. Like I said to you, we offer the financial support, and then we offer the non-financial support as well, which is business and financial management training on various different topics, as well as mentorship. And like I mentioned up here, is when we partner with small businesses, it's really a partnership and it's really a hand-holding commitment. So it's not just a commitment to have you on the Absa supply base in order for you to get work from Absa, but it goes much further than that in terms of to develop you so that you have a product offering that is innovative, that is constantly growing and changing, just like our requirements are, so that you are kept relevant to the Absa, to Absa's needs, as well as relevant to the supplier need out there in general. And that is it. I can't see any questions going up.
Mikhail, thank you so much. I think, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me, Mikhail?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's been so insightful. You actually do have a lineup of questions. But just, firstly, on behalf of Smart Procurement, I think, we just want to take this opportunity to thank Absa for your support, and the commitment to small business. And, like you say, this is just one of the many initiatives that Absa is involved in. I think there's a big lineup of questions, but I feel like a lot of it was answered through the presentation as well. And I think you've also been gracious to say that you'll share your contact details. So whatever we can't get through, perhaps we can suggest that the audience direct messages you, and you can guide them to the relevant teams. The one question that I see here right at the top is, which month does Absa start planning for the new financial year?
We've already started our planning for the new financial year. So
Okay.
what we actually do is towards the beginning of the year, financial year runs Jan to December. So towards the beginning of the year is when we finalize our category strategies for the year, but we would have started working on it in Q3 already. So we are well on the way to already preparing our book of work for 2021.
Okay, fantastic. Ngwana, I hope that answers your question. Another one that's coming up here. So Roy says, you mentioned so many figures in billions. Can you please summarize what each amount refers to? I'm not sure that we can answer that right now, right?
So I think overall, the big number to keep in mind is that Absa's spend for 2019 was 18.9 billion. And that is a big number, very big number.
Absolutely. How do we register to become potential service providers? I think you've gone through that in your slide just before now. Please explain the tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers.
So tier 1 suppliers are those directly contracted to us. Tier 2 suppliers would be the suppliers of our supplier. So for instance, in a managed services contract for facilities, we would deal with a Brawl, Sebo, Bidvest, etc. And their suppliers would be the people who actually do the security, manage the coffee shop downstairs. So that would be the tier 1, tier 2.
Great stuff. Anastasia, I hope that answers your question. We have a question from Roy, but I'm not sure that you could answer this. It seems like it's for a specific tender that was issued for financial facilitation skills development. And Roy is asking, was that awarded? Oh, and who was the successful tender?
Keshna, I have shared my details in the chat. So for those who have specific questions around if you're currently a supplier or you've previously been a supplier or you've bid to participate within an RFX, if you can send those to me directly, because I wouldn't have the answers to all of them right now, especially since the categories are managed by, like I said to you, close on to 70, 80 people. So I will get back to you with more information.
I think that's a great way. I think, Mikhail, the last, just in closing, there's a question here, and Melissa is asking if you're already an Absa supplier, but still not managing to build internal relationships. I think, you've touched on that in your presentation, but just as a closing point, just to share some tips and insights on how you would guide suppliers to get noticed and, stand out from everybody else.
Keshni and Melissa, I know Melissa, to give you a one-size-fits-all answer would be irresponsible of me, especially since we are broken up into so many different areas within the bank. Building relationships is difficult, especially for small businesses. And I think even more so now with the current environment that we are in with COVID and not having physical interactions. But it's important for you to understand your stakeholder landscape, in particular the stakeholder landscape within Absa, in terms of who the category manager is, as well as the various different accountable executives that we deal with. And I think touching base regularly, ensuring that I know that sometimes suppliers feel like they don't want to be a nuisance, so they're not constantly contacting us. However, when you're dealing with categories that are so huge and with a supplier base that's so, big numbers as well, you can forget a supplier that you met at a conference, at a smart procurement event, at a Lionesses, a We Connect event. And it's necessary for you to actually ensure that you keep in touch with us as often as possible, especially now when you're coming up with innovative ideas, etc. Please make sure you showcase that to us. If you don't have our email addresses, ensure that you do get it. But be in touch, and you never know when the right opportunity is going to come up. And it often happens that you were the last email we read and suddenly we get a request from business and they're requesting a certain service. And I remember, actually, I just saw an email from so-and-so and I can put that forward. But Melissa, I will touch base with you as well if you can just email me so that we can give you access to the right people to build the right relationships.
Yeah. Thank you, Mikhail. I think, that sums up the theme for today. And I think, in these tough times, now more than ever, people, it's our test, the true test of being resilient. And, I think with Absa as well as with the host of other supply chain colleagues that we met today, if we want to stand out from the noise and if we want to be first to opportunity in terms of what's out there, we really need to stay close and we really need to keep reinventing ourselves and keep the engagement levels. Thank you so much for sharing the insight with us. To our audience, thank you so much for joining us for today. I really hope that it's been an insightful and productive day. And on behalf of Absa and Smart Procurement, we wish everybody all of the very best going forward for the rest of 2020 as well as into 2021. All of the recordings from today will be shared. If there is someone that came on and you would like to get into personal contact with them, please do pop the team an email and we'd be happy to facilitate those introductions as well. Thank you so much and stay safe and sane.